Thank you, Dark. And next on will be me. I'll quickly go over Sugar Apple Fairy Tale. It has again the same name in English as it does in Japanese. It is done by none other than the illustrious quote unquote JC staff. It
What has
is
JC Staff done?
uh that is quite a list. JC staff's done a lot of stuff, but same manga
Wait, this
original.
is JC staff?
It is indeed JC staff. They brought in the mainly from what I looked in the staff, they brought in most of the
They brought
Danmachi
in
and Little
money and
Busters team.
talent?
Yeah, they brought in the Danmachi and the Little Busters team mainly for a lot of
Damn.
the graphics and the art and stuff like that. They shifted the music production, a lot of the music production, to like Flying Dog Productions, who have done work on stuff like Macross, who have done help with production for Macross, Wataten, Hidan no Aria, and Mahotsukai no Yome. But yeah, visuals mainly from the Danmachi and Little Busters team. The mostly all old like veterans that have either worked with JC
The
staff or
Little
outside
Busters team, that doesn't sound good.
and the Danmachi team. Essentially the Suzuki Yohei, right? The director who did a lot of episode director and directorial and photography stuff and a lot of JC staff series. Essentially he was the director previously for stuff like Henneko, Planet with Shiboneta, and he also helped with stuff like Zero no Tsukaima from A Million of Zero, Shokugeki no Soma, Food Wars, Damachi, and Little Busters. So I'm guessing that he used sort
Okay,
of
that
his
makes me feel a
connections.
little better.
Yeah. So it kind of he pretty much used his kind of connections in Shokugeki no Soma, in Damachi, in Little Busters, I think, within the JC staff crew or within those project teams to kind of pull and get those connections in and create this team from what it seems to me. But yeah, they are mostly all old veterans who have done a lot of work for JC staff as well as outside stuff. They are coming forth to bear down on this series, and you can kind of see it again in the visuals, which is relatively decent, at least in the static frames as well. Series composition slash script writing done by Minakami Seishi, who did stuff for Raildex, the Paprika movie, screenplay for the Paprika movie, and Shauna. Animation directors and like the animation directors in Maeda Yuriko, Izuka Haruko, and Fukui Mai. Again, they are kind of drawn from stuff like Danmachi, Little Busters, Wecross, Selection Wecross, or whatever the hell you pronounce that name. Um, Suzuki Akira as the art director, did a lot of rail decks, did a lot, helped with a lot of the movies such as Doraemon, Crayon Shinchan, stuff like that. The only real newbie in this kind of cast is Tsubakiyama Hinako, who did Sabikui Bisco's music. She is also working on the music for this. I didn't really notice anything real special about about the music, so I guess that was a little bit part of it. Maybe just some, maybe not properly getting into the pace yet. Uh, Akitagawa Jin. Oh, by the way, Nier, did you notice anything like special about like the general BGM OST for like Rusty or Bisco, Sabikui Bisco, or no?
Um, I mean, it was solid.
Yeah,
I didn't notice anything too like crazy about it, but it
you
was
were you
fine.
were like, oh shit, I need to get the OST or anything for that.
No, not that I remember. I don't remember. I do remember it being like good. Like
Yeah, solid. Yeah,
it was unique for sure. For
yeah,
like an action anime. But yeah,
yeah.
I didn't really think it was
Like you
like
weren't like
life
I need to
changing or
download.
anything. But yeah,
You weren't like I
it,
didn't need to download the
yeah,
OST or whatever.
it
Yeah.
was a good OST though, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so she did that as well. Obviously, the illustrious Akitagawa Jin, son of Akitagawa Susumu, sound on sound. Background sound in this one was a little bit off at times. Like they were when there was like a like chattering, for instance, going on in the background. There was this like weird in like the town hall, or not in the town hall, in like the town square or whatever, right? There was this like weird echo that was going on at times, which is like why like that doesn't make any sense. So that was a little bit off. I'm not sure what that was about. But yeah. And Manaka Hidenori on photography, again, part of the Rail Deck Shona Danmachi One Punch Man kind of general line of stuff. But yeah, the staff generally pull from Danmachi Little Busters. Visuals were generally good. You can kind of see it panning out in the staff as well as the general visual quality of this. Pale palette, again, similar a lot of kind of inspirations and kind of drawing similar to the color palette similar to what they got from Little Busters as well as Danmachi as well. Going over to the voice acting real quick. There's a lot of the supporting cast is done by veterans such as Takahashi Rie, Uchiyama Koki, Ichinose Kana, Yamashita Seiichiro, and Uemaru Yuto. The only kind of quote unquote like not as prolific. I mean, she was still prolific, but the voice behind the female lead, the female main character in Anne in Nukui Uka, this is her first main role in a while. The last one was back in 2018 or so with Backstreet Girls, Goku Dolls, and even that wasn't like that much of a big project. In my opinion, I think the art director Suzuki Akira probably heard her voice and wanted to kind of pull her in for this project. Maybe is my guess. Sharu, who is the main male. I guess what do you call like the? Because it's like you call the female like kind of heroines, right? Who are following the male lead. What do you call the male characters that are following the uh, main heroine?
A himbo?
Him-
Yeah, I
Wait,
call
I'm
them
like I'm
beta
actually
males.
asking
Okay.
her. What?
Beta
I'm actually
males?
asking her because I don't know what you call them.
I don't.
Yeah,
I
A boy
mean,
toy?
we
yeah. I was
could
thinking
we
boy toy.
uh,
I'm gonna mention boy toy later, but it's like, but
I
don't
mean
want to
for
use that as a
this
constant thing.
Inspire for this series
Guys,
specifically.
we are a
We could
serious
call
podcast,
him
okay?
we could just say what he is in this series.
what would you call Luca in freaking Bayonetta? Would you call him a himbo? I call him a himbo.
Neo, do you have something to? Do you
Yeah,
wanna?
like,
Do you wanna
do you have something
posit
better
your
here?
opinion?
I got nothing.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know.
So
All right,
one of
what's
the
this
main.
main male lead social social placement? What's that? What is that?
Yeah, rate his like skull shape.
Rated skull shape. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You
Like,
say
His
that, Nair,
hierarchy
but do
within the
you
patriarchy.
know
Yeah.
what this series is?
Is he a sub 6 or what?
Oh, that's where you're going with that? I thought you were going to a different place with the skull shape.
But yeah.
Because
He's the opposite of a damsel in distress. Like, what do you want? I don't
no,
know.
no.
I don't
no,
know.
he's a
But yeah, it's
slave, dude.
yeah. One of the main male characters is um done by Sharu, or I guess the main male character is done by Mizunaka Masaki, who also voices Diablo in Isekai Mao as well as Kazumi in Gundam Build Divers. So yeah, relatively a solid cast there as well. I just also want to mention just one thing for the voice acting. I'm gonna link this to the other guys here in the in private and DMs. But if you guys look here, go to 5 minutes 14 seconds in where Takahashi Rie. So Takahashi Rie voices a sort of tomboy, like small tomboy fairy, like a mini, like petite tomboy fairy in this series. It is quite a good voicing. Like, check it out. It's actually really good. I was like, wait a minute, what the? Like, she didn't sound like this in her previous tomboy role. What happened here? Like, she definitely polished it up, which I do appreciate. So yeah, congrats, props to Takahashi Rie for that. Voicing, I believe the name is Mithril Ridpod, I believe is the fairy's name. But yeah, pretty good. Anyways, uh, going on to the plot real quick. There's so there's a kingdom, there's like a fantasy kingdom. Uh there are humans and fairies and probably like other like fantastical monsters as well. Um they fairies and humans lived in harmony and then humans betrayed them and
Oh, okay.
yep,
Yeah, I was gonna say, huh? What?
yeah. And then until fairies or until humans betray the fairies, and then now humans have essentially enslaved fairies or enslave any fairies that they catch, because what you can do is you can hold the wing of a fairy, like one of the wings of a fairy, like in a separate place, and you can hold it hostage, and it's kind of like messing around with it or like squeezing it or trying to break it is like essentially messing with their life. So you use that, you keep it in like a pouch, or like you keep it to yourself to control the fairy and enslave them.
Wow, so a slave contract, basically.
Yeah, or you don't even need a contract. It's like as long as you hold the wing, you can
Oh,
do whatever you
you
want with
mean
them.
a slave mark?
It's like Davy Jones' heart in like Pirates of the Caribbean. But yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Essentially and then there are also silver sugar masters and kind of candy slash sugar confectionaries, which is like they create these like sugar like portraits and like art and stuff like that. And they also, I believe, the silver sugar master also like dabbles or like uses like silver sugar to create like weird confectionaries, and like fairies really like silver sugar, and there's also that like lore and stuff. But that's like that lore is not very important in this series. It's really not. That's not why anybody really watches it. But the main
So
girl
what you're saying
who
is that the
is
fairies gave the humans the gift of type 2 diabetes.
yes, exactly. Or and now the humans are trying to give it back, or like the kind humans are trying to give it back with a silver sugar to feeding to the fairies. But this the main female lead, Halford Anne is wants to be a silver sugar master and wants to create these pretty sugar confectionaries that'll wow everybody, following after her mother's footsteps or whatever it is, and also wants dreams of a world where fairies and humans live equally, and she wants to get to like the capital city or whatever the fuck, and to get there, obviously because it's like dangerous along the countryside or whatever, she buys
Oh,
a
yeah, I was gonna say, you almost said hired. No, no.
yeah, she buys a no, I wasn't gonna say hi. I'm gonna say buy. I know where
I don't
Japan
know,
is.
man.
I
I
know where
don't know,
Japan's
man. I
headspace
thought I
is.
heard a little H sound coming out
Yeah.
there.
No, 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 no. I know
Because
where
I wouldn't,
Japan's
hey, listen, I wouldn't really blame you because that was one of the things I was going to say is this series really is just like, yeah, it's just like, so what? He's a slave.
yeah.
Like,
No, but that's also true for like any isekais and stuff like that. And remember, because it's like a lot of them very unnatural. It's like, of course they're slaves, bro. Like,
Yeah,
what
Spire,
do
yeah.
you think?
Spire, Spire. You can't use the word
yeah,
slave. I
but
think you
this,
mean
I feel like
indentured servant.
Yeah, indentured servants. Sorry, I apologize.
I feel like the problem with this series is that it lays it on like really thick where it's like, yeah, no, these are like slaves, but like it's also like really bad. Like it's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what
yeah.
you think it's like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think what's emphasized is I'll go into like kind of what I think about the general way that the author approaches the class, like race kind of dynamics here, as well as the slavery issue.
Boy.
But
Yeah, give us your take on slavery.
yeah,
What are your
yeah,
ideas?
yeah.
Is this?
But
I
Good, bad, I
can't
don't know.
believe you would promote this class-based system, Spire.
yeah, but let me finish the synopsis real quick. Um, wow, it actually, wow. Wait, the My Anime List summary says hires, actually. It doesn't even say, I just noticed it now. It says hires and it doesn't say
Yeah,
buys.
You don't
Holy shit.
you don't
Okay.
hire
that's so good,
slaves.
dude.
You can't do that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, she
my Anime
didn't.
List.
He
Yeah,
very
she
much
bought
does
him.
not hire him.
Yeah. But she buys the like a warrior fairy, which is supposed to be like a fairy that's um based off like supposed to be like really strong at like fighting and stuff like that. Called
Yeah,
Shadowfen Shadow.
i.e. he's human sized and very hot.
Strong as
Yeah,
an
yeah,
ant.
yeah. The hot part is very important for this series. Unironically, very important for this series.
Why? Is
Uh,
it because they sell more or what?
that too, but
No, it's because
I'll
it's
explain a
okay
little
if
bit.
he like, is violent with
Yeah,
anyone,
yeah,
including
with
our
women, yeah,
heroine.
exactly. Yeah. But anyways, she buys the warrior fairy uh for protection on her way to the capital to become the silver sugar master and all that bullshit lore that nobody cares about. Um, but she makes a deal with him by word, just saying, if I don't want to be holding this wing really because I want to be friends with you. And so once we reach the capital safely, I will give you back your wing, and then can we be friends? And blah blah blah, and the rest of it's kind of like this very standard, like go to the capital, do the things, blah blah blah, and then you know more mini arcs or episodic stuff, right? You can kind of anybody that has watched something that's like a little bit more journey themed on like a feudal fantasy plus like a little bit of a starting premise knows where this is going, right? It's something like Spice and Wolf or whatever.
So
Not
is it an actual fairy wing or is it an allegory of a fairy wing?
No, it's an actual fairy
No,
wing.
it's a
Like
But it's like separate.
whole ass
It's like
fairy
a
wing.
separated fairy wing. It's again, the lore is very not important in this series because it's
Yeah,
like really
it seems
separated.
like you could just like kind of pull them off and like put them back on or
Yeah, like
something. Like,
Yeah, and then yeah, it's stupid.
because I
Anyways,
was gonna say if it's a male fairy's wings, that's also an allegory towards something else. It's like, oh, I'll take one of your things, I'll give it back later if you know what I mean.
I,
So it's not an
oh
allegory? Damn, that's
no,
a
it's not.
waste. Not that kind of series, huh?
But yeah, other than that, again, it's a pretty standard. If you've read any of these like Journey, if you've read any of like the standard like class, race, slavery kind of thing, and how that develops, and these sorts of like Japanese anime, you know where it's going. It's very standard character, emotional development, introspection, interaction with this. You know, Japanese anime writers deal with this very poorly. It has a standard. How can we ever be friends when you hold my life in your hands? All that fucking stuff that you can see from like a mile away, like 5 miles away, right? And then it's like, oh, but I treated you kindly, and then like the guy comes back when she's in danger or like when she's in despair because she, she treated him kindly, so he's like, you know what? She is the special human, blah blah blah, all that shit, right? Stuff that any reasonable anime watcher has gone through or seen like a billion times. So nothing impressive on that end.
Oh, hold
Couple
on.
of
Why are
notes.
the fairies enslaved again? Because
Because the humans betrayed them, or that's pretty much about it. Yeah, like the humans were just like, yeah, we just want to take advantage of fairies because we can, and then hold their wings hostage because that's like the weakness of fairies. And the fairies can do like a bunch of different stuff, right? They have supernatural powers, so the humans are just like, yeah, we'll just enslave the fairies. That's supposed to be the lore.
which is,
So
probably the most
not too far from
human
the truth.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not too far from the truth.
like
To be fair.
pretty damn
Yeah,
realistic.
yeah. So a couple of notes. When Anne and Shadow meet each other, the two's meeting are pretty cheesy. It's like the girls are like, I've never seen such a pretty fairy. And then what is it? It's like it kind of the entire series is very cheesy on the lines. It's like the banter, a lot of the comedy banter leans into the fan service very heavily as well. For instance, like where it's like the girl is asking, "Can you be my bodyguard?" And then the guy is just like, "Yeah, I can be. Yeah, I can do whatever you order me to. I can give you a kiss as a bonus or service as well." And like trying to fill that sort of very proactive fan service into the comedy. But obviously that's similar in when the genders are swapped, right? When you see a bunch of rom-com harems as well, with the male main character as well as the female heroines, they kind of do a similar thing, right? They kind of fill the comedic banter with the fan service from the female heroines. So it's essentially the same thing. The hero, just like again in the rom-com harem, where the heroines throw themselves at the male main character, the male targets, the male characters or the boy toys or himbos or whatever, throw themselves at the female main character. Again, not too different.
wait,
What?
hold on.
Yeah.
Near.
Uh,
Is Saber a slave?
she's a servant.
Indenture, sir.
But you pay a cost in order to summon them, right? And they're bound by a contract.
Yeah, but you don't
Like that
buy them from someone.
they can't deny.
Um,
Is fate a glorified slavery?
I mean,
I mean
kind of.
they're
but
they're
it's,
servants, bro. Like
Yeah,
it's
like,
in the name.
basically
Like
are.
they serve their master. Like
Indentured servants.
Yes. The answer is yes. The answer. So
Damn,
yeah.
I gotta rethink. Well, I gotta rethink this whole thing now.
I mean they literally Dude, they literally go into that in Fate, bro. Like they're
I
effectively
never thought of it
glorified.
before.
They're glorified familiars. Like they don't really have free will. Like
Yeah.
Damn, it's 2023. This can't stand.
Anyways, the fate stuff aside, the what I would say is the interesting kind of difference between the whole standard male main character, female leads, rom-com harem stuff, as opposed to something like this, with a female lead and the male sorry, female main character and the male leads. And I've noticed this in a couple of other recent like series as well. Is that there's like with the rom com with the male main character rom com harem, right? There is this like weird coping mechanism that's developed recently where oftentimes a female heroine will do something, right? Like proactive or provocative, like the boobs or the shower scene or like they're jumping his bones in his bed or whatever it is, right? But then right afterwards, there's this like they spend X amount of seconds where they're like saying something, right? They're justifying their action, what they like, why they did that thing just now, right? Like the kudere will just be like, "Oh, because you're my fiance," or whatever, or like the tsundere will be like, "Oh, I just had to clean something off," or like they'll make some like weird justification that'll be like part of this like weird banter, right? But in this series, and I think in a bunch of other sort of female main character, male lead kind of ultimate game style kind of series as well, or reverse harem style series as well, the male characters kind of just do stuff, right? They'll just do the kabedon, where they'll just glomp onto her, and they're just like, "Isn't this what you want?" Like, or they don't even say, "Isn't this what you want?" They just like just do the kabedon, where they just like getting close for the kiss, or they just put their face like right like close to her, or like glomp onto her, just like without they don't really say do anything like real that like explains why they're doing it. It's just like they just do it, and I guess the female viewers are just expected to be like, "Yeah, this is what I want. This is the," you know what I mean? It's very like they don't even have that coping mechanism. They're just like, "No, we don't need justification. This is just what it is," which I think is pretty funny in a sense, right? Um, so I haven't seen. It's like that being said, I don't obviously watch or read many of these, so I haven't really seen this level of like the male character flying around, putting their close faces close up to the female lead or whatever. I haven't seen a bunch of that since something like Barojo no Kiss. I think that was the last one that I like read through a lot of. Um, there's also like the male lead keeps saying like when the female main character has the male lead's wing, right? The male lead, like the cool like black haired dude or whatever, right? He keeps saying, "I'll only do things when ordered, so order me." I'm like, is this trying to tickle some weird like female viewer
Yes.
dom sub fetish? Like, is
Yes.
this is what is it? It's a dom sub fetish, right? That they're trying to tickle.
Yes.
Um,
you
definitely.
you don't need to even ask that question.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Why
I'm
doesn't
like,
she
all
just
right.
eat the wing to gain magical powers?
Yeah, it's like so it's like the guy keeps trying to like kabedon the girl, and it's like you got to order me around. It's like okay, yeah, all right, calm down there. And then one last thing, I won't spoil it really, but like one of the characters, one of the male leads does like full psychopath, um, and it kind of reminded me of that one Donald Glover skit about crazy men in a relationship versus crazy women, where it's like he the skit was like you always hear all the comedy skits for like relationships for crazy people in a relationship is always about like crazy women, because crazy women will like scream and like kick and do whatever, but they won't like really harm people. They'll just like upset people. But like crazy men in a relationship, you never hear the funny stories about them, because when they go crazy, they just like hurt people. like they just people just die. And so that was sort of what I was kind of reminded that sort of skit was what I was reminded of for the when one of the male leads goes insane or crazy and does weird shit. Uh Other than that, there's not really much to say. I mean, it's very not even middle of the road. It's just like a very standard. Oh, you want the fetish, right? It's like you want the hot dude leaning into the girl's face, right? Here it is. Eat it. Eat the fucking cake, motherfucker. This is what you feel viewers wanted, right? And that's all about it. Obviously, if you value that sort of stuff, watch it as a guilty pleasure or whatever. I think it's perfectly fine. I think there's some value to that. I won't be like, wow, I can't believe you guys read this crap or whatever. There's some value if you want to read that, but there's not much value beyond that. Is what I'm saying. The story is very stereotypical. You can see like 99% of it coming from a mile away. Uh, Most of the reverse harem stuff, most of the romance stuff, pretty much fits what they do. Pretty much fits what it does in the gender reverse version of a standard rom-com harem stuff. There's really no surprises in this series. No surprises in character developments, no surprises in character interactions, no surprises in character introspections. The lore isn't very important.
Is it better
Classism,
than 50 Shades of Grey, though? That's the new hot
yeah,
stuff,
I mean
right?
that's not a very high bar. I would say it has that sort of bias, but it's definitely a little bit better. Also, it's not really smut focused. It's, it doesn't actually have any smut. But there's the uh, just I guess a small note on like the whole like classism, racism, slavery, and how they deal with it. They don't deal with it very well. I mean, there's like scenes of obvious. There's like one or two scenes of sort of cruelty where the fairies are just treated like quite badly, and it's just like, oh, that's because you know the humans are the masters, and some humans are just like very crew like that and whatever it is. So that's like one thing. But beyond that, there's no real proper exploration of like how different fairies feel about this, or how the interaction kind of works out, or the general sort of dynamics, the sociocultural dynamics, right? Which I don't really expect from this series, but again, it's a pretty much it's another one on the pile of yeah, Japan's just or Japanese anime writers are just not good at writing this. And that's why I also keep being like I don't really understand why like this series I kind of like, you know, um get like its value because it's the slavery thing aside, it's like it has its value, it has its head in a different place, headspace, right? But something like 86, for example, right? Where that was super popular and that was essentially focused around the whole like different like races or whatever it is and the social cultural like interactions, right? I never got why that became popular because it didn't deal with that series didn't deal with this subject properly either. So it's just disappointing that people are just kind of like, yeah, Japan is bad at explaining different races and discrimination and slavery. Like they're just bad at it. These 99% of animes do not do well in explaining these sorts of things, and people kind of just eat it up anyways. And they're like, yeah, slave, yeah, of course, and it's a little bit disappointing, but or very disappointing rather, but um at least
Is
again with the series it's in a slightly different headspace. It has a different set of objectives, but
is the cooking at least good? This is a cooking series, right?
it is not a cooking series. It doesn't have much of the actual like
No
making
real
the
like
confect.
baking.
So like when
Ah,
they call it like sugar confectionaries and stuff like that, what they do is like they make sugar portraits or like they make like these like sugar sculptures or whatever. It's like
so
weird.
like no, they're not no real confectionery stuff.
Yeah, they're
It's
not
just a
making like
medium.
actual food items. They're making sculptures. Like ice sculptures. Imagine that, but like sugar. That's like what they're making essentially. Um.
Yeah, which is
So
unfortunate because like when I had
yeah. Also,
first
they
checked
don't
this out, I thought it
really
was
do a
going to
lot
be
of
like
it.
one of those like, Japanese like confectionery like craftsman type things where it's,
No, no,
it's still a edible candy, but it's like a really cool goldfish, stuff like that. And then it was just like, nah, it's like extremely elaborate and not like confectionery trivia type stuff.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, I just was not very. The whole fairy versus human racism, discrimination, racism, slavery dynamic wasn't impressive, but I didn't really expect. I mean, it wasn't good. It just was not good. But I didn't really expect it to be good anyways. I didn't expect much from this author or Japanese writers about this subject anyways. Um,
So what's your
uh,
rating?
yeah, it's probably if I had to rate it as a guilty pleasure, it would probably be a 5 out of 10. If I had to rate it just like outside, just like as an overall objective kind of top level thing, I'll probably give it a 4 or 3.5 maybe out of 10. Yeah. Honestly, like sometime down the road, I want to start giving lower and lower scores to people who or to writers in anime series that bring up and use like the whole discrimination, racism, classism, slavery kind of thing, but just like use it as like a cudgel. And I want to start giving lower and lower scores, but I just don't know where to start. It's such a stupid like I've seen so much of this like oh like how can we be friends when I always treated as lower class. Like heard that phrase so many times. Like I could fucking hear that shit in my
Yeah,
sleep.
and it really makes you think every single time.
Yeah,
See, it
it makes
stuck
me
with
cry
you,
every
dude.
time. Yeah, yeah, that's true. I apologize. It's very deep. Yeah, saying that while they have tears in their eyes, it always makes me cry every time.
Yeah, and they go, but
But
I'm just like you.
yeah, exactly. It's I just want to be friends. How can we be friends
You're
when we're
just like
from different?
us.
Yeah, when we're from different casts or whatever. You
Yeah,
know,
really, just like
God,
fucking
We all
hitting
look the
noobs
same on the
around.
inside.
yeah, it's like you say that now, but I know you'll betray me in the end. Like I fucking want to punch a Japanese anime writer every time I hear that shit, man. Um, but yeah, nothing too impressive. If you want to watch it as a guilty pleasure, you might be suck some juice out of it. As like if you like, the otome game stuff where boys throw themselves at the girls, at the main girl, you'll be able to suck some juice out of this. Other than that, it's not good. It's not very good. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah,
It
if you want a
is again.
real woke Japanese series, watch Kamen Rider Black Sun.
Jesus. Anyways, this is Sugar Apple Fairy Tale. This is a manga original adapted, excuse me, by JC Staff. Again, JC Staff brought in mainly the Don Much and the Little Busters team, mainly a crew of old veterans to help animate this. Animation is pretty decent, or visual quality is relatively decent. The story is not very decent. Take it as you will.